So, Jack, it's all on you.
Isn't that exciting and a little bit scary? All right.
Got this. You've got this.
Welcome to New Zealand WebFest Best Podcast Actual Play, because every single one of our finalists have achieved amazing things. Their storytelling is exceptional. Their audio is exemplary, and what they do sounds like so much fun. I'm hoping we're going to get an insight into how it all began. But first, what I would love for everyone to do is to start the ball rolling, introduce themselves, and a little bit of a pitch to the listener about their podcast. And I know everyone's there going, "Oh, don't choose me, don't go first." But Tay, you were the first to arrive, so you get to go first.
Let's go. Hi, howdy. I'm Tay. And I come from the black hole in the universe that is Backwater Bastards, a sci-fi comedy improv actual play. And there's three of us, which is probably like our biggest accomplishment, the fact that we're alive. So, and that we've managed. I guess the biggest thing that we've ever done is just survive in any nomination. And then on top of that, we've been cranking nonstop since 2018. Have we learned anything? Maybe one thing, maybe two, not more. That's it.
Aaron, you're next, and I've actually got going to wait at the end for a bit of an announcement that you have to make, which I think everyone would be interested in hearing. But tell us a little bit about the All Night Society.
Hello. Yes, I am Aaron. I'm I guess, the lead writer and director for the All Night Society. It is a Vampire the Masquerade actual play podcast where we specifically tell the stories of marginalized communities through vampirism. It is a story about needing to get promoted in a world where the only way to get the next job above you is if someone dies, with the additional input of what that experience is like for Black Americans, for Jewish Americans, and other people who have not always had the strongest voice. We were blessed to come first place in the actual play category in the Audio Fiction World Cup last year. In part, thank you so much to New Zealand WebFest. This year, not so well, but that's because there are so many amazing shows, many of which I'm on screen with right now. So thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone else for being here.
There we go. Rara, did you want to go next?
Definitely. I'm Rara. I go by he, they pronouns, and I'm the creator, GM, sometimes producer for The Heart is a Dungeon. We're about 11 months in, so still in our first year. Our current series has a cast of 26, and we're playing Under Hollow Hills, which is a fairy circus game. We're about to finish that series this December. It's a mostly BIPOC and mostly femme presenting fairy tale slice of life of sorts, and pleasure to be here with so many veterans of the space.
Ellie and Kira?
Hello.
You want to go first?
Oh, well, I'm Allie. I'm the player for RPG for You and Me's Neon Heat. We've got a couple shows under the umbrella, but it's our flagship. This is Kira, my
I'm
lovely
Kira.
wife.
Hello. I am the GM for RPG for You and Me, specifically Neon Heat. It's a duet actual play podcast in a custom sci-fi futuristic homebrew setting. Deals with a lot of issues of identity. It was kind of our own exploration into who we are and what we wanted, and this was before either of us knew that we were queer and
Oops,
neurodivergent, a lot of those things. So we wanted to, it wasn't that stories we were interested in didn't exist. It was just that the things that we liked in stories were so scattered that we wanted to pull all of it together into one thing that was like our perfect story. So we've been going since 2018, 17.
I think we started planning in 17, but we started production proper in 19, and now we're on season 4 of our main show, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, so it's we called it our friend honeypot because we knew that anyone who liked our content would like us as people too and be friends, and it worked a lot of times. So we now have a lot of
so many
wonderful
good
people that we've
friends.
met and good friends through it. Yeah, we've been nominated for a couple of awards.
Yeah, we were nominated at New Jersey Web Fest for this year, and
Best actual play.
Yeah,
And
actual play. And selected
cast.
for Melbourne and Sydney,
Yeah.
and nominated here as well at New Zealand Web Fest. So we're just jazzed to be here with so many cool people. That's our cat jumping on my PC. Come here,
It's
baby.
quite all right. Animal interference will happen probably with,
Bring me the
with a lot of
kitty. Yeah.
us.
She's very fussy, so this is gonna get hilarious pretty soon.
Yes.
Baby.
Do you want to give us a shout out?
Yes, Kyle, that's me. Hi, I'm Kyle. I'm the host of Quest Friends, an audio cartoon about friendship, family, and ghosts, inspired where 5 best friends explore life in a world where the world of the dead is only a plane ride away. We play Under the Neighborhood, which is a role-playing game I made inspired by Gravity Falls and the Owl House, basically that genre of cartoons. And a friend of mine said that my show reminds them of Gravity Falls, which is really the best compliment I could get because that's what we were aiming for. I'm gonna flaunt my age a little bit. Our show has been running since September 2017, so we have a full sci-fi campaign that is already done. That's 4 years long, and then we've been doing this one for a couple of years. I've been submitting to Webfest since I think 2021, and the past 3 years we've won Best Actual Play once. So 2022 Apulia, sorry if I got that name wrong, Hollywood Series last year, and then we just got one that I don't know if I can announce. I can't remember if they published it yet, but we did get one this year.
Fantastic. And Sean?
Yeah, hey. So my name's Sean. I am 1/4 of Roll2Cast. We're a variety TTRPG actual play podcast where we specialize in playing a different game, different TTRPG every season, and we rotate who is the game master, dungeon master, storyteller, what have you, keeper of arcane lore. We commission original music, we write our original stories, so we've played everything from Vampire the Masquerade to Pulp Cthulhu, Starfinder, Dune, Kids on Bikes, Cyberpunk, both 2020 and Red, and a variety of other games. I think between the 4 of us, we've played 50 different TTRPGs over our time. And it was kind of an exercise for us in going, we want to create an RPG podcast, but D&D is saturated into the space, and that's fine, and we love that, but what can we do that lets people know that there are other games out there? And so that was kind of our quest to go, there is a myriad of different ways and tones and styles to tell stories and play games. And so we wanted to kind of introduce everyone. And so the best compliment we've gotten is, oh, I went out and I bought this game and I'm now playing that. And it's like, awesome. And yeah, so that's kind of us. We've just completed our 10th season. And we've just gotten funding for something that I'm not allowed to announce yet, but it's an exciting new project that we just got funding for. So that's exciting too. And yeah, that's me, and that's Roll2Cast. ROLE, to be clear.
Oh, somebody else has got merch on.
Yeah, you gotta.
And Leanne, welcome. We didn't get to say hello to you before, but would you like to introduce yourself and give a bit of a pitch for Bad Heroes?
Hello. How does my audio sound?
We're great.
Good. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Leanne. I am a co-producer and cast member on Bad Heroes. Bad Heroes is a fantasy actual play podcast that has been running for about 5 years now. We are telling the story of a group of unlikely heroes who have been forcibly recruited to hunt deadly curses by an evil realm bound to hell. We are playing a homebrew campaign using Pathfinder First Edition mechanics because that was the tabletop game that we had been playing at the time that we started it. And a fun fact about our cast is that pretty much everybody on the show is some flavor of queer, neurodivergent, children of immigrants, and disabled, or some combination of all of the above. And we strive to bring inclusive storytelling with positive representation to the table. And many of our show's themes revolve around finding hope in challenging, bleak times. and about healing and growth and found family, and really just telling the kinds of stories that help us get through hard times, and hopefully sharing that with others.
That's fantastic. This is probably one of the biggest panels that I've ever sort of seen, and there's lots of you. You've got so many wonderful stories, and I'm blown away by the level of expertise in audio and storytelling. And I kind of want to know, how did you all get started? And that's is this something that way back you started, back at school, or is it something that you found community in? And we could go one by one if you would like it, or we can open up that conversation if you like.
I think I'll just, if it's all right.
Jump in, guys. This is what it's all about.
For myself, it was very interesting because I started podcasting back in 2016. And the reason it came about was I just finished acting school and I became super kind of disillusioned and disenfranchised with the state of the acting community in where I am. It's hard to, break into industry. I suck at networking. And I just, how do I do something creatively with people that I want to do work with in a way that I feel that I can enter into a space? And I listen to podcasting and think, oh, I can do that. And I think I can do that to a substantial quality. And so originally we did a Futurama podcast where we did every episode week by week. We interviewed directors, writers from the show. It was like really awesome because funnily enough, with a lot of creators, if you just ask them, they'll likely say yes because they want to talk about their craft. And then 5 years into that, we kind of went, well, we want to do an RPG podcast. That's when we transferred over to Roll to Cast. And we've had a similar experience where we've gotten to interview creators from different TTRPGs, like Justin Achille from Vampire the Masquerade or Mike Pondsmith from Cyberpunk. And yeah, it was just a way for us to enter into the space through a medium that, especially at the time in the I don't know what you call that decade, the mid-teens of the 2000, whatever that decade is, podcasting really started flourishing and becoming like its own entity and huge in the space. So it was about capitalizing on that while it was hot, I guess.
Anybody else want to take that question?
I love how intentional that was because I was the exact opposite. I stumbled into this because I was convinced, I'm like, I want to make YouTube videos because honestly, that's still the thing I do most. I watch so many YouTube videos. But I did role-playing games with friends, and I was always complaining because I was like, man, we have all these great stories, but then I have to go through all this effort to like write them down to remember, and we don't really have any record of anything. And then I didn't really listen to podcasts, but there's a little podcast called The Adventure Zone. I was like, oh, I'll give that a listen. Oh man, this is a pretty fun show. And then I Googled D&D podcast, and I don't know what was wrong with my Google search, because there were a lot, but I couldn't find any. So I was like, this seems like it's pretty small, as did apparently everyone else in 2017 and 2018. So I was like, all right, well, maybe as a side thing, I'll just record with some friends. I'll start a new campaign. I wanted to do that anyway. And, basically, it's not going to do any editing. It's not going to take any time at all. So I was wrong. But I think that was a good thing because there wasn't a lot of by the time I started feeling the pressure, I was already committed. I was recording with my best friends. I didn't want to let them down. We had some committed fans to the show. And by the time I realized just what a commitment I had stumbled into, I was like, well, I guess I like it. And I guess I'm stuck here now.
I can so relate to that because that is almost exactly our experience as well. This is not only our first ever podcast. For many people, it was also our first time playing any kind of TTRPG. And we learned very belatedly that it's actually possibly one of the hardest formats for a podcast because you have it not just the standard format of like one host and one guest. You have 5 people all talking over each other, and how hard it is to edit that and form a cohesive story out of it. But it was too late. We were committed. We couldn't stop at that point. The way that we got into it was also The Adventure Zone was a show that our GM, Dre Silvertooth, castmate Kaz Baloo, and myself had been listening to at the time. We were also starting to dabble with playing some home games, and we really wanted Dre to run a homebrew campaign for us because Dre is sort of our resident storyteller. But they came up with a story and felt so passionately about it that they felt like we had to share it with like more than just ourselves. We had to share it with the world, and that's sort of how Bad Heroes came to be.
Okay.
As no, you can go.
Oh no, Ali, Kira, if you want to go.
I think, well, I'll speak for both of us a little bit and say that we've both always loved just storytelling as a medium. I grew up, my mom listened to books on tape. She had the cassette tapes, and then she got the CDs from the library. So I was I was introduced to the idea of auditory storytelling at a very young age.
Can you
was always
imagine switching out cassettes to get through a whole book?
Yeah, it'd come with like 16 cassettes and crazy. Be like a
That was
full
the way
thing.
We live.
It would look like a Disney
It was
VHS,
hard.
and it's like this extra
Yeah.
folding case thing.
That's what my mom did too, though. She was a substitute teacher, so she was always driving really far away for work. And I remember like one of my first books I clocked she was reading was Aragon on tape, and it was like
Ah,
Oh,
a
wow.
folio of like 12 CDs at least. And I was like, I like dragons. I could listen to this.
So just having the start with audiobooks in general, and then podcasts started really taking off in the mid-teens, like we were saying before. I was in a very dark place at my life, and that's about the same time that we met. We met in 2011, 2012. It was
Yeah.
2012. And I didn't physically live in my car, but I spent all of my time in the car because I didn't have like a safe place at home to go back to. That was just my safe place. So I'd drive around and visit friends, but I would always have something going in the background. I would always be listening to something because the story, occupied my imagination. So I listened to a lot of Kevin Smith content. And I had never had the opportunity to play TTRPG stuff up to that point, but I bought the books when I was a kid, but wasn't allowed to play, didn't have friends who were into it. So I never really got a chance to see how everything worked like in action. And around that time, I discovered an actual play called Strand Gamers. Doesn't exist anymore. I've never met somebody else who's heard them before, but that was my first foray into actual plays. And I thought
They did Avatar, right?
they did like a homebrew Avatar one.
Yeah.
They did some New World of Darkness stuff. But they were my first introduction. It was very low production quality. They just recorded the sessions, put it up so you could see how it was working in play, and that captured my imagination. And then, of course, years went by. We started listening to more actual plays. First season of Critical Role, Adventure Zone, of course.
I got Drunks and Dragons. It was my first one back in school.
Dragons. I got turned on to a show called Sounds Like Crows by a friend of mine, a coworker of mine. And that's what got us really invested in the audio space because we became fans of the show. We joined their Discord server. We got to know the cast, and we thought, this is something that we can do too. And we have stories that we want to tell. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
We ended up having a good weekend at an artist alley because I went to school for animation and digital animation, VFX, that kind of stuff. That's not what I do now. I pivoted through the show. I learned how to edit audio. I learned how to sound design, make music, do art and assets for it. I'm kind of like a one woman band.
It's pretty amazing.
But I'm now the audio director for Dark Matter Media, which I make audiobooks now. I could have never done this without starting our journey together, which is still like my ultimate labor of love. Like it's my favorite thing, and I get to do it with you.
It's pretty awesome.
yeah.
Oh, really sweet. Tay, do you want to give it a roll? How
Oh
did you
my
start?
god, my story sucks. I didn't listen. Buckle up. What's the swearing threshold on this just before I dive in?
Yeah, I'm Australian,
Yay or
so I
nay?
really need to know that.
See, the backwards bastards person, it's really important.
Come on. Are we yay or nay?
Look,
Okay.
a small amount of, exclusive adjectives is perfectly
Okay,
acceptable. You
phenomenal,
just
I get
steer
one.
away from the really phenomenon ones.
Okay, I'll pack those back
Who's the
in.
best?
So I didn't listen to podcasts. I'm hard of hearing, so it's like not my favorite medium at all. And I also hadn't played a tabletop game since I was like a roving youth. Forum role playing, anyone?
Oh
Pretending
my
creature?
God, yes.
Let's go. 1999 GeoCities. You know what I'm talking about. So I started in a real ugly place. That's why I became a graphic designer. But, gross, crawled out of the gutter, became, something worse. A graphic
So
designer.
it wasn't your passion?
No, well, what happened was I live in Iceland. So everybody on the show's an immigrant. And we were in Iceland at a video game industry party, and that is where I met Dan. And Dan is like our mother. He is who started it and why it exists. And he had, like many of you, watched. If he was telling this, he would be like The Adventure Zone, NADPOD. Like, I was listening. He has like the pedigree of someone who did listen to tabletop audio media, and we were at a party because he's a VFX artist, and I was just in a corner talking shit about everyone there and ranting and like, how much money do you think that person would eat a human turd for? And I was creating a scene, and he was like, be on my podcast. And I was like, ugh. Yeah, let's go.
How much?
Because
how much did you settle on monetarily?
Yeah,
like for eating.
Oh no, not me. I was GMing this experience.
Yeah,
So
I would never
yeah.
answer that question.
I would never.
Never ever give away your number.
Yeah, then
but everyone
then
else
haggling,
I was deciding. I was running the betting pool on everybody else in the room and why, and what were the details. And this was like kind of how we met. Like, it's not a great, like, at our podcast, like, wedding family story. That's what happened. And he was like, be on my podcast, we're gonna play a tabletop game. And I was like, oh, whatever. And we're, again, immigrants with like little to no community, so we were like, an activity? Okay, I'm there. Whatever. What is it? It doesn't matter. And so like we would meet up, and at the time there were a couple more of us. We were a little bit bigger. It was like the golden days before we knew other podcasts. I wasn't listening to anything else. I didn't even know Critical Role, because at the time, being a part of like the video game world, I knew like Matt Mercer as an Overwatch voice actor, and that was a big deal back then because voice actors, just didn't have that kind of celebrity until that moment, really, in the world. And so I've got like my little my emotional support streamer here. Great. But like, yeah, he kicked it off, and he and Dick grew up together in New Zealand playing D&D together. So Dan had been trying to like trap Dick for years, like, let's just play and record it. People do this. Like, people might want to hear it. And Dick was like, nobody on earth wants to hear this. Nobody on earth wants to hear us play D&D. And Dan was like, let me just record it. And from nothing, Dan became this like sound engineer. Like, it blows my mind, because we were just people that have no friends, and we just work 24/7. And like, that's it. And we live out here on a rock in the middle of nowhere. It's dark like half the year. And we were like, this is weird. Let's do it. It sounded like crap. We recorded the first couple of things on like headsets. We didn't know what we were doing. I think one of us didn't even have a mic. So we were like doing one of these like little Call of Duty champion guys, and it sucked. And we played super homebrew D&D for like 2 years. And it was like, boy, we are so boxed the heck in by D&D and how it feels. And no hate, but we wanted to like destroy it. And our homebrew did destroy it. And the people that listened to us initially were only industry people. So this was like other concept artists. And they were like, actually kind of funny. And we were like, okay, well, it's not just mom anymore. And so we stayed with it. And it was like, I think we have to use something else. And that was when Dick started. He was like, that's really funny that you should say that. I have my own game system back here in my pocket that I've been building. It's rules light as heck. Let's see how it goes. And that was right at the kickstart of 2020, we started playing our sci-fi campaign, and we're still doing it. And people are constantly like, "When are you gonna die?" Or like, and we're not, because if I ever have to be anything else, I'll probably implode. I play a bear, and I never want to stop. And we've invested our lives and our little crappy pocket change money and our stupid, like, it's your blood and your sweat and your bad ideas and your good ideas. Like, you pour it all in, and you spend all your time, and you wake up one day and you're like, we don't go on holiday anywhere. We just go to cons. When did our lives turn into this? My living room's full of stickers and that's it. Like, I don't know how this happened to us,
It's a mood.
but now we're here and we can never, ever, ever get off the train.
And you said it was a bad story.
I mean, you can see our
Well-
pin board behind us.
Oh,
like-
yeah.
It does kind of
You fall in.
It does kind of bring up an interesting question that I have for people as well, because I know that one thing that I noticed that was a bit of a pattern between a lot of the nominees is the decision to, even if you started in D&D, you eventually moved away from that. I know, so Taylor, like, you're talking about Orbital Refuse, and we've got Vampire the Masquerade, Savage Worlds, Numenera. I know, I believe Quest Friends started with it before
We started
moving.
with Numenera, yeah.
Yeah, and so that seems to be Pathfinder. So I was curious as to why people either transitioned away or decided to start with something other than what is considered, the big mainstream game.
We just wanted to tell a story, like, with no rules on us. I didn't want to have to say, oh, I'm 30 feet away and I need to, like, but I can't do anything because I'm, encumbered or whatever. Like, we wanted to do more of, like, what we were hearing in audio drama, but we didn't want to script it because that's fun for us. Like, the improv is the magic. Like, we love that. But games are still important. Like, we met as, people in the game, in video games. So it's like, mechanics are still fun to manipulate. But they were getting in our way. And I think you have to find this, like, limit of, like, what kind of story is it that you're trying to tell? What kind of interaction do you want to have? And, like, is it getting you there or not?
Yeah.
Like, is it a
D&D is a
sandbag
very
around your
codified-
ankle or what?
Aaron, do you want to
D&D is a
jump in
very-
there at all?
Oh, no, Allie, by all
Yeah.
means, please.
And Rara, because I've noticed Rara's very quiet there.
Yeah,
With
he's
the
ready to
fabulous,
jump in,
fabulous
please.
wallpaper.
I'm just learning
know.
from everyone.
There's a bit
I'm
of it that
losing
overlaps
myself
with,
in that wallpaper.
with some of the answers because I came from audio fiction. My first In My Ears experience was We're Alive by Casey Wayland, and then Leviathan Chronicles by Christian Laputka. And that was my background, but I not only didn't want to script it, did not have I know you're never going to hear a straight white guy say this. I don't have a desire to write a screenplay, so I didn't feel especially compelled to do that kind of thing. But I did like that piece because when I think about actual play, like, the mechanics are great, but if you have an hour-long episode, that's like, what, 4 rounds of D&D combat, maybe? So I wanted to see
If you're
what...
lucky.
Yeah,
You're good at running combat.
I haven't played D&D since 3.5 in, like, 1996, to reveal my age slightly.
Woo!
But I wanted to approach...
Aaron, you're looking good.
Thank you. I wanted to approach the game from a perspective a bit like literary fiction, where we spend most of our time talking about the characters and what they're thinking, what they're up to, how they interact with this world we've created. And then after doing a survey of all the different systems available to us, we started with, we narrowed it down to like 3. But in Vampire the Masquerade, at that point, Googling around, it appeared there was probably some kind of federal law, apparently, that said only straight white men from Minnesota were allowed to do Vampire the Masquerade in the
I heard that.
2000s.
I heard that.
I can't
yeah.
picture this. I can't picture this being, like, the only demographic playing vampire.
They've
Well, I mean, it's
repealed it since
Minnesota.
then.
Yeah.
But we
coven?
found a specific niche of a game that met our needs, that also we felt had the most room for us to, like, the most need audience wise for that kind of story. From there, it was just reaching, like, the critical mass of ego, saying that, like, oh yeah, the thing that I make is important. People want to listen to it, obviously, and then pushing the button on Castos. Yeah.
It's like, Rara, how did you
So-
get started?
From a slightly different path, but it's only about 11 months ago. But I'm from more of a writing literature world than, like, theater or anything. My spouse Creature and I used to run a little poetry publishing company where we put out books of friends, and we used our artist friends for covers and all that sort of thing. And then I had a couple deaths in the family all back to back, and it kind of took out all that momentum. A few years later, we're in a different state. COVID happens. We start playing games with friends in person. And we ran a multi-year game at our table, and then everyone moved away. And we were also running a local Help Queer Players Find Safe Tables meetup that would happen where we live. And all that fell apart, but people left, our campaign ended. I was like, I've seen that people play games online. I'm gonna apply for some of these. It looks weird. I'm gonna try this out. I applied for 12 and got into it 11. I didn't think anyone would say yes because I had never done it before, and just really leapt in. In December, I tricked my spouse Creature. I'm like, let's record a little session of, D&D 1983 Salt Lake City. Like, I just want to play around with sound and see like what I can do. That turned into our first episode. She was in the bath the next day, and I started a Spotify account. And it all kind of just accidentally happened. So our first season was 30-minute episodes for 16 episodes, so very short, like 7.5 hours. We went through 4 systems, and it was a mostly 2-person game where we had a few friends join, and then we realized some people were listening. So it was like, oh shit, oh crap, we need to get a microphone. We need to kind of come up with what are we doing? Like, what's our plan? And then I cast like 26 people, and it's been a wild year of making this beautiful, elaborate story with all these friends, but I'm very outclassed just between us since no one else is going to hear this. The day after we recorded that episode, I had to go Google, like, where do you sound edit? And the internet's like, use this program. I'm like, okay. And it's like, how do you sound edit?
Big same.
So I won Best Audio Design at New Jersey, and I learned what a noise gate was 2 days later. So when I tell people I don't know what I'm doing, it's not really like a cute thing. It's like a cry for help. Like, if it sounds bad, please tell me. But we have a beautiful community of like 50 players. We crowdfund to give grants to other shows that we're in community with, and help like fund their WebFest entries because we want our friends to beat us. So we're coming into it with a big mutual aid mindset because we ran local mutual aid during COVID. We did like diaper drives for our community and stuff like that. So we're just a couple aged hipsters that are using our old punk rock morals to put some beautiful improv players into some sad shows. And it's a wonderful time.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I know that for myself, I put my hand up to be the editor when we first began. And that's already an issue because I'm deaf in my right ear. So I have no idea what stereo, like I cannot fathom the idea of stereo. And I know that when I started out, because like you, I had to go YouTube. Okay, let's use Audacity, not knowing that Audacity's so not good for me comparative to other things, because I now look at Premiere Pro and I use Audition and things like that. But when I first started, we got an early listener about 10 episodes in. So this is almost 3 months into the podcast, sent us a comment saying, hey, it sounds different left to right. And then I had to listen. I went, and then I went, oh, I've been editing everything to the left ear, and then everything on the right was just unedited. So I mastered it correctly on the left. So then from there, I had to go, right, everything in mono. Or just learn to read the sound wave, which I've had to do over the past few years. But it's so interesting how everything gets self-taught, especially in the podcasting space, because it seems like when a lot of us all started, even though it was starting to build momentum, everything was fairly new and fresh, and people were figuring out what was best practice, what are like the tricks and how to actually start up. So a lot of it's self-learned and trial and error.
Yeah, how many of us here learned like how to do editing and sound design just like on the fly?
Yeah.
Is there any other way?
I've had this mic since 2017, exact same microphone. In early episodes, I was told I sounded like I was in the bathroom. That's because you can't really see it, but there's a little thing here labeled back.
No, I did that too for like a year.
So I spent the first 3 sessions like this, and I was like, sometimes it sounds good, sometimes it sounds bad. I don't know what's going on.
Who knew
And
that
then
the icon mattered?
and then I picked it up and I'm like, huh, it says back here. I wonder if this has a front and a backside.
I
I
honestly
think you should
like
get an
that
achieve
though.
when you do that.
It's what makes actual play really exciting for me because there are no rules, so everyone can experiment. Whereas, like, it's more in the case in video that if you're doing it, there are two ways. You get the 5 heads on an overlay, or you get critical role. Those are the only 2 options that are allowed. But in the
Yeah.
audio world, you can do whatever the hell you want. No
Yeah.
one knows. No one's right. And you can
I
just
love
see
that.
it like. Go ahead. Yeah, please.
I was just gonna say I love that just for actual plays as a medium. Like I love writing, I love stories, and I always wanted to do something a little bit more serious or formal, but got paralyzed by perfectionism, which I'm sure a lot of people here deal with. So
Mhm.
really having to internalize, like, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Doing things in an improvisational manner. Like I'll have bullet notes of like, I know what the main things are, and I might like write a single line quote or something. But outside of that, like occasionally description, everything else is just coming off the brain. So I don't have time to get into my own head about it. And it doesn't have to be perfect because it's improvisational. So that was like a
Here,
huge
here.
gift to me creatively. Yeah, is just to not worry about it. It's fun.
I've never seen somebody fugue harder than you when you play certain characters.
God, I have the
She disappears. It's amazing.
Yeah, so for all of our other GMs out there, I fugue very hard when I'm running a game, to the point where like after I've run the session, there will be stuff that people are telling me the next day that I do not remember.
You're
that I
like,
said,
huh?
and I'll have to listen to it. But it gives me like the very narcissistic benefit of being like, that was really funny. I'm pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like when we sit down I'll stream my Reaper through Discord so we can do a quality assurance pass before the episodes go live. And like I'm in one room, Kira is at her setup in the other room, and we'll just be like, haha, like in time because we've both forgotten crap. It's cute.
I
very
love
neat.
re-list. It's the best part of being an editor is because after
Mhm.
every session, I'm like, almost every session, I'm like, that was garbage. That was terrible. My friends did great, but I flundered, and I re-listen every time. I'm like, that's pretty
Oh, it
funny.
wasn't so bad.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
But how
Well,
how
and
good is it?
editors are a little bit
good
of
is it?
collage artists too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
It's a gift
Yeah.
to your
making a
future
story
self.
with what's been given. Yeah.
But also,
I
how
don't
good
know
is it
if
as
I
an
love-
editor to be able to save something in the edit? Like you look at something going, oh, I think I can tighten that up. I think I can make it something cohesive and something that makes sense.
So
You know,
satisfying when that
Oh.
happens. What I love about this medium also is just how accessible it is to creative people like us,
Mhm.
perfectionists, folks who wanted to tell cool stories. Like, for example, I always had a childhood dream of like getting into movies. But then I learned how incredibly hard and expensive that actually is. But like working on Bad Heroes and doing the sound design and doing the musical scoring for it really scratches that particular creative itch. And like when you
Yeah.
put it all together and create that really awesome cinematic moment, it's just like, yes.
Yes.
You have to do this stuff because
Yeah.
I mean, like we all work in creative fields for other people all day long, and like if you don't make this, you have to make something for yourself. You
Yeah.
have to. You have
That's
to.
incredible.
For your
And
brain.
guys, thanks for keeping the conversation rolling while
course.
the dog knocked my internet out.
Oh,
Oh no.
To
Blame
be
it
fair,
on the dog.
well, to be
As
fair,
we
he's
said in the
facing cat.
chat, it's not a role-playing recording if an animal doesn't ruin it.
That's true.
I think this is also the first time the GM has said just role play amongst yourselves for a minute, and it actually worked.
yeah.
Be right back. They're like, I gotta
Oh, wait.
take a trip to the bathroom and figure out the next 20 minutes of gameplay. Don't mind me.
But with only a few minutes left, I know Aaron's got a bit of an announcement of what they've been doing with Queen's Court and the All Night Society. So I'm just going to hand it over to him because I think it's something that everyone would be interested in hearing.
Yeah. So the All Night Society is great, and it's a terribly fun project. And I realized at a certain point that it is the thing making that art is what really makes me happy at the end of the day. And the best thing that I could do to help other people be that happy is help them make their thing. So last year we ran through Queen's Court Games the Crown Grants, which a bit like Ra-Ra's program provided funding for actual play podcasts and video streams to reach all 12 festivals in the Audio Fiction World Cup. we have now spun that off into its own charity enterprise, the Tabletop Arts Fund. So submissions are open right now for you watching at home or you in this chat to go and submit your actual play for a fully funded trip around the world. Our judges are going to pick 5 programs with preference to first-time submitters. So like, also shows that either feature cast and production teams from marginalized backgrounds or deal explicitly with them in the narrative such that we can get them out. This year we've had to pick 6 because despite my clear instructions, the judges could not stop a 4-way tie from happening. It was first, second, and then third. I think I said third enough times. Lost my train of thought, giggling at my own mistake. Those submissions will end on November 15th. So if you are on Blue Sky, you can go to Tabletop Art Fund. If you're on the worst social media site, it's tabletop_AF. If you can't find either of those things, send me an email, aaron@tabletop-artsfund.org, and I will hook you up with the form. In January, we will be doing the same thing for tabletop designers. So if you are a scenario writer or a game designer, or you're doing a tarot deck or something, our ideal project is like someone has like a banger of a manuscript. You have done this perfectly, and you make it to the end and you realize, oh crap, I do not have enough money for both cover art and layout. And what we've done is we've recruited artists and designers and consultants and editors from all around the world who are willing to work at below their normal rate for selectees of our program. We will put you in touch with someone who meets your needs, matches your vibe, does the style you like, and then provide the funding to close that hole in your creative dream. Additionally, folks who are selected, we are going to match you for a 1-hour consult with a senior designer in your field or genre. So like ideal situation, not putting him on the spot. If you're writing a Blades in the Dark hack, we're going to try to get you an hour with John Harper to look at your mechanics and talk about your bit, see what little pieces you can pull out, and then help you put that into the world. Also, because I would not want to start a charity that can only help 5 people a year, we're going to be doing monthly Skillshare to have senior industry professionals come in. If you're familiar with Game Dev Con and you've seen their like 203, 303 level talks on stuff, we're going to do that for both tabletop and actual play programming throughout the year. Just to kind of spread as much knowledge as possible around. We talked a lot today about how no one knows how to do anything because none of it's written down. So we'll try to build a little library. If you are a person who is interested in submitting, please do. If you are a person who's interested in helping, reach out. It's Aaron at tabletop-artsfund.org. If you know someone who would like to do it, awesome. If you just think it's a cool idea, find it and like what is it on Blue Sky? You skeet? I don't like that. Repost on Blue Sky.
Is that it?
That's what it was.
Okay,
And I don't know
I'll
if they knew or
accept it.
not.
I'll accept it.
Yeah, I don't think they Googled that word before they picked it.
I don't think they did.
I
You
think
at home
that
should
might
not
be
Google
like
that word.
reserved by something else.
Well,
I don't
we'll
know.
leave that to them. But so yeah, I just repost it, share it around. You can help people who don't know we exist. So please let me avail myself of your networks. And we'll see if we can't get some great games made.
I just want to thank each and every one of you for one of the most fantastic panels I've ever been a part of. It was fascinating, interesting. I didn't even get to ask all the questions I had, just in case we didn't get to them. You guys are amazing. Good luck with all your future projects. I feel as though I know you because I've been listening. And as an audio fiction podcaster, I know I don't usually get that back. So lovely to have met you all. Thank you so much for being part of the New Zealand Web Fest. We've got fingers, toes, and elbows crossed for everyone, and have